Hello, and welcome to today's lesson about subtraction of whole numbers and decimals. First, let's talk about some important vocabulary that you will need to know and understand for today's lesson. The first word is minuend, and in subtraction, it is the number from which another number is subtracted. So, for example, in the problem on the screen, 682 minus 451 equals 232. 682 is the minuend. Our second word today is subtrahend, and it is the number in a subtraction problem that's being taken away from another number. So in this example, 451 is the subtrahend. Our final word today is difference, and this is the result of subtracting one number from another. So in our example, the answer to a subtraction problem is the difference. So in this case, the difference is 232. So today, just like in our addition video, we are going to focus on two different methods for subtraction. And the first one is called the trade first method. This is a subtraction algorithm in which all necessary trades between places in numbers are done before any subtractions are carried out. Some people really like this algorithm because it makes it easier for them to concentrate on one thing at a time. Let's look at an example of how this method works. So here is a fairly simple example using the trade first method. If each digit of the minuend is greater than or equal to the digit directly below it, you're going to subtract separately in each column. In this case, we don't have any trading that we need to do before we can start because 3 is bigger than 1 and 9 is bigger than 2. So I'm just going to subtract straight down the columns. 3 minus 1 is 2 and 9 minus 2 is 7, and I'm finished with this problem. Let's look at a problem now that isn't as simple as this first problem. So this one is a little bit different. If any digit of the minuend is less than the digit directly below it, then the minuend is adjusted before subtracting. The minuend, my cats are fighting in the background. The minuend is adjusted by trading. For example, we might need to trade one of the tens for 10 ones and one of the hundreds for 10 tens. So let's start out by first looking at the ones place. 5 ones cannot be removed from 3 ones, so I'm going to trade 1 10 for 10 ones and adjust the tens and ones. It'll look like this. Next, I'm going to look at the tens place. 7 tens cannot be removed from 5 tens, so I'm going to trade 100 for 10 tens and adjust the hundreds and tens. When I'm finished, it will look like this. Then I am simply going to subtract each column. 13 minus 5 in the ones column is equal to 8. 15 minus 7 in the tens column is also equal to 8. And 3 minus 2 in the hundreds column is equal to 1. So my final answer is 188. When you're working with the trade first method and you're using decimals, the strategy is exactly the same. You want to trade from right over to the left and make sure that you do all of your trades before you start subtracting. It helps because you have to think about less steps as you're going along, and you can get all of your trading done and then do all of the subtraction and be finished with the problem. The second method that we're going to talk about today is called the partial differences method, and it's a method of subtraction. It's an algorithm in which separate differences are computed for each place value of the numbers and then added to get the final difference. First, we're going to start by subtracting the thousands. So we're going to take 4,000 minus 2,000 and write down our answer. 4,000 minus 2,000 is equal to 2,000. In this case, because the top number is bigger than this bottom number, we're going to write a plus sign next to the 2,000 to show that that number is a positive number. Next, we're going to go ahead and subtract the hundreds. Because the hundreds on top are smaller than the hundreds on the bottom, we're actually going to switch those around in our head, and instead of doing 200 minus 600, what we're actually going to do is 600 minus 200, and we're going to come up with 400. Now because I switched these two numbers around in my head when I subtracted, I have to write a subtraction sign next to the 400 because that number actually has to be subtracted out of my answer at the end rather than added in like the 2000. The third step is to go ahead and subtract the tens, and the tens on the top are bigger than the tens on the bottom, so we're just going to subtract them regularly. 60 minus 30 is 30, and because it's positive, we're going to include a plus sign after it, or before it. Finally, we're going to subtract the ones place, and because the ones on top is smaller than the ones on the bottom, we're going to do just what we did in the hundreds place and flip them over, and we're really going to be subtracting 7 minus 1, which equals 6. Now, because I had to flip them over again, I'm going to write down my 6, but I'm going to include a subtraction sign so I remember that that has to be subtracted from my total at the end. So basically, I am going to subtract and add all of these numbers with using the symbols that I've put in front of them. So I'm going to start with 2,000 minus 400, which, using my mental math skills, I know to be 1,600. I'm just going to make a note of that here on the side. Then I'm going to take 1,600 and I am going to add 30 to that number. So we're going to do these two next, and I'm going to come up with 1,630. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this 6 out from 1,630, and I am going to end up with an answer of 1,624, and that is my final answer using the partial differences method. Here is your practice problem for the day. You may use either one of the two methods that I covered in this video today, or any other method that you're comfortable with to solve. 5,192 minus 3,285. Good luck!